like a photograph losing its colors one shade at a time. I'll never forget the day my grandmother started putting her keys in the refrigerator. We laughed it off at first, who hasn't had those moments? But then the small things began piling up. She'd call me by my mother's name, forget to turn off the stove, and get lost on her way to the grocery store she'd visited for 40 years. Alzheimer's is more than just forgetfulness. It's a progressive brain disorder that slowly destroys memory and thinking skills. Imagine your brain as a vast library, where Alzheimer's is like an invisible force pulling books off shelves, tearing out pages, and jumbling up the chapters of your life. What makes this disease particularly cruel is that it doesn't just affect the person diagnosed. It transforms entire families. Spouses become caregivers, children become parents to their parents, and everyone learns a new language of patience and understanding. But here's something remarkable. Even as memories fade, emotions remain. My grandmother might not remember my name, but she still lights up when I walk into the room. She might forget what she had for breakfast, but she can still hum every note of her favorite song from 1952. Scientists are working tirelessly to understand this complex disease better. While there's no cure yet, research has shown that certain lifestyle choices might help reduce the risk. Staying mentally active, exercising regularly, maintaining social connections, and eating a healthy diet. Most importantly, if you know someone affected by Alzheimer's, remember this. Behind every diagnosis is a person who's still there, who still feels, who still matters. They might not remember the details of their life story, but they're still writing new chapters, even if in a different way. So let's talk about it, understand it, and support those affected by it. Because in the end, while Alzheimer's might take memories, it can never take away the love and dignity every person deserves. Let me tell you about Sarah, a vibrant piano teacher who noticed something wasn't quite right when her fingers started trembling while playing her favorite Beethoven sonata. At first, she brushed it off as stress or fatigue, but deep down she knew this was different. Sarah's story mirrors the experience of millions worldwide who face Parkinson's disease, a condition that affects about 10 million people globally. It's like your brain's control room starts malfunctioning, specifically in an area called the substantia nigra, where dopamine-producing cells begin to die off. Think of dopamine as your body's movement messenger. When these messengers start disappearing, your body begins to show signs: trembling hands, stiff muscles, balance problems, and slower movements. It's like trying to conduct an orchestra with a shaky baton and musicians who can't quite keep time. What fascinates scientists is that Parkinson's often announces itself in subtle ways, years before the obvious symptoms appear. Some people lose their sense of smell, experience vivid dreams, or notice their handwriting getting smaller, like invisible ink slowly fading on paper. While there's no cure yet, the landscape of treatment has evolved dramatically. From medications that act as dopamine stand-ins to cutting-edge deep brain stimulation, imagine a pacemaker for your brain. Medical science is fighting back. And then there's the power of movement. Boxing classes, dance therapy, and Tai Chi have become unexpected allies in helping people maintain their mobility and independence. But perhaps the most powerful medicine is hope. Research is advancing at an unprecedented pace. Scientists are exploring everything from stem cell therapy to genetic treatments. Communities of patients, families, and healthcare providers are coming together, creating support networks that turn isolation into connection. Sarah, she still teaches piano, adapting her methods and embracing new technologies to continue sharing her passion for music. Her tremors haven't silenced her melody. They've just added a different rhythm to her life's composition. Remember, Parkinson's doesn't define a person, it's just one chapter in their story. And with each passing day, science, support, and human resilience are writing new, more hopeful chapters in this ongoing narrative. Imagine for a moment that your brain is like a vast network of electrical signals, constantly firing messages back and forth. Now picture what happens when those signals suddenly go haywire. That's what it's like to live with epilepsy, a condition that affects over 50 million people worldwide. You know, it's fascinating how many misconceptions surround epilepsy. When most people think about it, they picture someone having a dramatic seizure, falling to the ground. But here's the thing. Epilepsy is so much more complex than that. Some people might just stare blankly for a few seconds. Others might experience sudden confusion, and some might have subtle muscle twitches that you'd barely notice. Let me tell you about Sarah, a friend of mine who was diagnosed with epilepsy in college. She described her first seizure as feeling like someone had suddenly changed the channel in her brain. She was sitting in class one moment, and the next thing she knew, she was surrounded by concerned faces with no memory of what had happened in between. What's truly remarkable is how far we've come in understanding and treating epilepsy. In ancient times, people thought it was a form of divine punishment or demon possession. Today, we know it's a neurological condition that can be managed with medication, dietary changes, and in some cases, surgery. But living with epilepsy isn't just about managing seizures. It's about navigating everyday life with an invisible condition. It's about explaining to your boss why you can't drive to work some days, or telling your friends why strobe lights at concerts are off limits. It's about the courage to live fully despite the uncertainty of when the next seizure might come. The good news is that research is advancing rapidly. New treatments are being developed, from sophisticated brain implants to promising medications. And perhaps most importantly, society's understanding of epilepsy is growing. We're moving away from fear and stigma toward acceptance and support. If you know someone with epilepsy, or if you're living with it yourself, remember this. Epilepsy doesn't define a person. It's just one part of their story. The human brain may be complex, but the human spirit is remarkably resilient. And with continued research, support, and understanding, we're getting better at helping people with epilepsy write their own stories, on their own terms. After all, every brain is unique, and every person's journey with epilepsy is different. But together, we can create a world where having epilepsy doesn't mean living in the shadows, but rather living life to its fullest potential. Picture this. You're going about your day, maybe sipping your morning coffee or chatting with a friend, when suddenly something feels off. Your speech becomes slurred. One side of your face starts drooping and your arm feels weak. These could be the first signs of a stroke, a medical emergency that strikes someone in the United States every 40 seconds. You know what's really mind-blowing? Your brain, this incredible organ that makes you who you are, can start dying within minutes when it's deprived of oxygen during a stroke. It's like a city experiencing a massive power outage, except this blackout can have permanent consequences. But here's the thing. Strokes aren't just something that happens to other people or older folks. They can affect anyone at any time. I remember Sarah, a 35-year-old marathon runner, who never thought she'd be at risk. Yet there she was, facing her own stroke battle. Her story teaches us that no one is immune. The good news, up to 80% of strokes are preventable. Think of it like maintaining your car. Regular checkups, quality fuel, healthy food, and proper maintenance exercise can dramatically reduce your risk. Simple changes like managing blood pressure, staying active, eating well, and not smoking can be your shield against stroke. But what if it does happen? Here's where the FAST method comes in. It's your life-saving toolbox. Face drooping, arm weakness, speech difficulty. Time to call emergency services. These 4 simple signs could mean the difference between recovery and permanent disability. Remember, every minute counts during a stroke. Getting treatment within the first 3 hours can significantly improve your chances of recovery. It's like having a fire extinguisher. You hope you'll never need it, but knowing how to use it could save a life, maybe even your own. The human brain is remarkable in its ability to heal and adapt. But prevention is always better than cure. So let's take care of our brains like the precious command centers they are. After all, they're the only ones we've got. Today I want to talk about multiple sclerosis, or MS, a condition that affects millions worldwide, yet many don't fully understand it. Imagine your body's electrical system suddenly developing short circuits. That's kind of what happens with MS. Let me break this down in a way that makes sense. You know how your phone needs its protective covering to keep the wires inside working properly? Well, our nerves have something similar called myelin. Think of it as nature's insulation tape. In someone with MS, their immune system mistakenly attacks this protective coating, leaving the nerves exposed and damaged. What makes MS particularly challenging is that it's like a snowflake. No two cases are exactly alike. Some people might experience fatigue that feels like they're trying to run a marathon in quicksand. Others might have vision problems, as if someone's constantly adjusting their focus without permission. Then there are those who deal with balance issues, making simple tasks like walking feel like trying to cross a tightrope. But here's something remarkable. The human spirit is incredibly resilient. I've met people with MS who've completely transformed how they view their diagnosis. Take Sarah, for instance. She was diagnosed at 28, right when her career was taking off. Instead of letting MS define her limits, she redefined them herself. She found new ways to stay active, became an advocate for others with MS, and actually says the diagnosis taught her to appreciate life's small victories more than ever. The scientific community is making incredible strides too. 20 years ago, treatment options were limited. Today, there are numerous medications and therapies that can slow disease progression and help manage symptoms. Researchers are exploring exciting new frontiers, from stem cell therapy to revolutionary treatment approaches that might one day lead to a cure. What's particularly fascinating is how our understanding of MS triggers has evolved. We now know that factors like vitamin D levels, geographical location, and even certain viral infections might play a role in its development. It's like putting together a complex puzzle, and scientists are finding new pieces every day. If there's one thing I want you to take away from this, it's that MS, while challenging, isn't a dead end. It's more like a detour. With advancing medical science, strong support systems, and the incredible adaptability of the human spirit, people with MS are writing their own stories, defying expectations, and showing us what resilience truly means. Remember, awareness is the first step toward understanding, and understanding leads to better support for those affected by MS. Let's keep the conversation going and continue to educate ourselves about this complex but manageable condition. Today, I want to share something deeply personal and important. Let's talk about brain tumors. You know, it's one of those terms that sends chills down anyone's spine, but understanding it can make a world of difference. Imagine your brain, this incredible supercomputer, suddenly having an unwanted guest. That's essentially what a brain tumor is. It's when cells in or around your brain start growing abnormally, forming a mass that really shouldn't be there. Here's what's fascinating and a bit scary about brain tumors. They don't discriminate. They can affect anyone, from young children to elderly adults, regardless of lifestyle or background. But here's something that might surprise you. Not all brain tumors are cancerous. In fact, many are benign, though they can still cause serious problems depending on their location. Let me tell you about Sarah, a friend of mine who was diagnosed with a brain tumor 5 years ago. She first noticed something was wrong when she started having unusual headaches, and her vision became blurry. These are classic warning signs, along with unexplained nausea, balance problems, and changes in behavior or personality. The good news is that medical science has come incredibly far in treating brain tumors, from advanced imaging techniques that can spot tumors the size of a grain of rice, to cutting-edge treatments like gamma knife surgery that can target tumors with incredible precision. We're making progress every day. But here's what really gets me excited. Researchers are developing new treatments using immunotherapy, where they basically train your own immune system to fight the tumor. It's like giving your body's natural defenses a GPS coordinate for the exact location of the problem. The key message I want to leave you with is this. While brain tumors are serious, they're not always a death sentence. Early detection is crucial, and there's a whole army of medical professionals working tirelessly to improve treatments and find cures. If you or someone you know notices persistent, unusual symptoms, don't hesitate to get checked out. Knowledge and early action can make all the difference. Remember, we're living in an age of medical miracles, and every day brings us closer to better understanding and treating brain tumors. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and most importantly, stay hopeful. Today, I want to talk about something that affects millions of people worldwide, yet often goes misunderstood: traumatic brain injury, or TBI. You know, it's fascinating how our brain, this 3-pound organ protected by our skull, can be so incredibly resilient, yet so vulnerable at the same time. Let me share a story about my friend Mike. One day he was playing soccer, something he'd done thousands of times before. A simple header, A collision with another player, and boom, his life changed in an instant. At first he thought it was just a bad headache, but it turned out to be much more serious. What many people don't realize is that TBIs can range from mild concussions to severe life-altering injuries. The scary part? They don't always show up immediately. Sometimes the symptoms creep up slowly. Confusion, memory problems, personality changes, even depression. Here's what's really eye-opening. About 2.8 million people suffer from TBI each year in the United States alone. That's more than breast cancer, AIDS, and multiple sclerosis combined. Yet we don't talk about it nearly enough. The human brain is like a complex computer network, but way more sophisticated. When it gets injured, it's not like breaking an arm where you can just put it in a cast and wait for it to heal. Each injury is unique and recovery can be unpredictable, but there's hope. Medical science has made incredible strides in understanding and treating TBI. From advanced imaging techniques to innovative rehabilitation methods, we're getting better at helping people recover. Some patients who were once thought to have permanent damage are now making remarkable recoveries. The most important thing I've learned about TBI is that awareness and prevention are crucial. Simple things like wearing a helmet while biking, using proper safety equipment in sports, or being extra cautious while driving can make all the difference. Mike, he's doing much better now, but his recovery journey taught him and all of us an important lesson. Our brains are precious, and protecting them should be our top priority. Because at the end of the day, they're what make us who we are. Remember, if you or someone you know experiences a head injury, don't brush it off, get it checked out. Sometimes what seems minor could be more serious. And early intervention can make all the difference in recovery. Let's keep this conversation going and spread awareness about TBI. Because understanding and preventing these injuries isn't just about statistics. It's about protecting the stories, memories, and futures of real people like you and me. Did you know that every year, meningitis affects thousands of people worldwide, and yet many don't know how serious this condition really is? I'm going to share with you a story that changed my perspective on this devastating illness forever. It was a typical Monday morning when Sarah, a college freshman, woke up with what she thought was just a bad headache. Like many of us would, she popped a few painkillers and headed to class. But by lunchtime, something was terribly wrong. The headache had become unbearable. Her neck was stiff, and she was increasingly sensitive to the fluorescent lights in the lecture hall. What Sarah didn't realize was that her body was fighting a potentially lethal infection of the protective membranes covering her brain and spinal cord, meningitis. This inflammation can be caused by various factors, from bacterial and viral infections to injuries. But what makes it particularly frightening is how quickly it can progress. Here's what makes meningitis so dangerous. It can often masquerade as the flu in its early stages. Fever, headache, neck stiffness. These symptoms might not seem alarming at first, but within hours the condition can become life-threatening. Without prompt treatment, it can lead to permanent brain damage, hearing loss, or even death. The good news is that we've made incredible strides in both preventing and treating meningitis. Vaccines are now available for many common types of bacterial meningitis, and early detection combined with modern medical treatments has significantly improved survival rates. But prevention is still our best defense. Know the warning signs: severe headache, stiff neck, sudden high fever, sensitivity to light, confusion, and a distinctive rash that doesn't fade when pressed with a glass. These symptoms, especially when they appear together, should never be ignored. Sarah was lucky. Her roommate recognized something was seriously wrong and insisted on taking her to the emergency room. Thanks to quick medical intervention, she made a full recovery. But her story serves as a powerful reminder. When it comes to meningitis, minutes matter. Today, Sarah works as a health advocate, sharing her story and raising awareness about meningitis. She often says that knowledge is not just power, it's survival. By understanding this disease, recognizing its symptoms, and knowing when to seek help, we can all better protect ourselves and our loved ones from this silent but serious threat. Remember, meningitis doesn't discriminate. It can affect anyone, at any age, at any time. Stay informed, stay vigilant, and don't hesitate to seek medical attention if you suspect something's wrong. Because when it comes to meningitis, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Let me tell you about a condition that changed my friend Sarah's life overnight. Encephalitis. You know how sometimes the smallest things can turn our world upside down? Well, that's exactly what happened to her. It started with what seemed like a regular headache. Sarah, always the energetic one in our group, brushed it off as stress from her new job. But within 48 hours, everything changed. The headache became intense. She started feeling confused, and her family noticed she wasn't quite herself. What many people don't realize is that encephalitis, inflammation of the brain, can strike anyone at any time. It's like your brain's immune system suddenly goes into overdrive, either fighting off an infection or, in some cases, mistakenly attacking healthy brain tissue. The scary part? It can be triggered by something as common as a cold sore virus or even a mosquito bite. Every year, about 10,000 cases are reported in the United States alone, yet many people have never heard of it until it affects someone they know. Sarah's journey through recovery wasn't easy. The first few weeks in the hospital were touch and go. Her memory was affected, and she had to relearn simple tasks we take for granted, like making a cup of coffee or remembering phone numbers. But here's the incredible thing about the human spirit. It's remarkably resilient. Today, 2 years later, Sarah's story is one of hope. While she still has some challenges, she's back at work, though in a different role. She's become an advocate for encephalitis awareness, sharing her story to help others recognize the early warning signs: severe headaches, fever, confusion, seizures, and personality changes. The most important lesson from Sarah's experience: never ignore persistent symptoms that feel unusual. Your body often knows when something's seriously wrong, and quick medical attention can make all the difference with encephalitis. Research continues to advance our understanding of this condition. New treatments are being developed and recovery rates are improving, but awareness remains crucial. By sharing stories like Sarah's, we help others recognize the signs early and potentially save lives. Remember, our brains are incredibly complex organs, and protecting them means staying alert to unusual changes in how we feel or behave. Sarah's story reminds us that while life can change in an instant, with proper medical care and support, there's always hope for recovery. Today, I want to share a story about a condition that has touched countless lives: Huntington's disease. Imagine watching someone you love slowly lose control of their movements, their thoughts, and their personality. This is the reality for families affected by this devastating genetic disorder. Picture Sarah, a vibrant 35-year-old artist who noticed her hands starting to shake uncontrollably while painting. At first, she dismissed it as stress, but when she learned her father had been diagnosed with Huntington's, her world turned upside down. You see, Huntington's disease is inherited, and children of affected parents have a 50% chance of developing it themselves. What makes this disease particularly cruel is how it manifests. It's like watching a storm slowly roll in, bringing with it involuntary movements called chorea, cognitive decline, and profound personality changes. The symptoms usually appear between ages 30 and 50, right when many people are in the prime of their lives. The disease was first described by Dr. George Huntington in 1872, but it wasn't until 1993 that scientists discovered the gene responsible. This breakthrough offered answers, but heartbreakingly, still no cure. Think about that. We know exactly what causes it, yet we're still fighting to find a way to stop it. Today, about 30,000 Americans are living with Huntington's disease, with another 200,000 at risk of developing it. Behind these numbers are real people, real families facing impossible decisions. Should they get tested? Should they have children? How do they plan for a future that feels so uncertain? But there is hope. Researchers worldwide are working tirelessly on treatments. Clinical trials are exploring everything from gene therapy to brain-targeting drugs. Communities have formed, offering support and understanding to those affected. While we haven't found a cure yet, we're closer than ever before. The story of Huntington's disease reminds us of both human fragility and resilience. It shows us how far medical science has come and how far we still need to go. Most importantly, it teaches us about the strength of the human spirit in the face of unprecedented challenges. The thyroid gland is a small butterfly-shaped organ located in the front of your neck, just below the Adam's apple. And despite its modest size, it plays a crucial role in the overall functioning of your body. As part of the endocrine system, the thyroid's primary job is to produce and regulate hormones that influence your metabolism, growth, energy levels, and even mood. Specifically, it produces two main hormones, thyroxine, also called T4, and triiodothyronine, T3. These hormones help regulate the speed at which your body uses energy, often referred to as your metabolic rate. If your metabolism is too fast or too slow, it can affect everything from your heartbeat and body temperature to how efficiently you burn calories and how tired or alert you feel. To make these hormones, the thyroid uses a mineral called iodine, which your body gets from the foods you eat, particularly iodized salt, dairy products, seafood, and certain vegetables. Once produced, T3 and T4 are released into the bloodstream and carried to virtually every cell in the body, where they help regulate essential processes like breathing, digestion, and brain function. The production of thyroid hormones is controlled by another hormone called thyroid-stimulating hormone, or TSH, which is made by the pituitary gland in your brain. When your thyroid levels drop too low, the pituitary gland senses this and produces more TSH to tell the thyroid to work harder. When levels are too high, TSH production decreases to slow things down. This feedback loop helps keep your hormone levels in balance. However, when something goes wrong with the thyroid, it can lead to disorders that affect many parts of the body. Two of the most common thyroid disorders are hypothyroidism and hyperthyroidism. Hypothyroidism occurs when the thyroid doesn't produce enough hormones, which can slow down bodily functions and lead to symptoms such as fatigue, weight gain, cold intolerance, constipation, depression, and dry skin. It's often caused by an autoimmune condition called Hashimoto's thyroiditis, where the immune system mistakenly attacks the thyroid. On the other hand, hyperthyroidism happens when the thyroid becomes overactive and produces too much hormone, speeding up the body's processes. This can cause symptoms like anxiety, rapid heartbeat, weight loss, irritability, sweating, and sleep disturbances. A common cause of hyperthyroidism is Graves' disease, another autoimmune disorder. In some cases, the thyroid may develop nodules, lumps that can be either benign or, in rare cases, cancerous. Most thyroid problems can be diagnosed with blood tests that measure levels of TSH and thyroid hormones. And if needed, imaging tests like ultrasound can be used to examine the structure of the thyroid. Treatment varies depending on the condition. For hypothyroidism, the standard treatment is a daily hormone replacement pill called levothyroxine, which restores hormone levels to normal. For hyperthyroidism, treatment might include medications that reduce hormone production, radioactive iodine to shrink the gland, or in some cases, surgery to remove all or part of the thyroid. When the thyroid is removed or damaged, patients usually need to take lifelong hormone replacement. Interestingly, many thyroid issues are more common in women, especially during periods of hormonal change like pregnancy or menopause. That's why regular checkups, especially for those at higher risk, are important to catch thyroid issues early. Despite how vital it is, many people are unaware of the thyroid's role until something goes wrong. Fortunately, with proper diagnosis and treatment, most thyroid conditions are manageable and people can lead healthy, normal lives. In summary, the thyroid may be small, but it plays an enormous role in your health. It controls how your body uses energy, how fast your heart beats, how warm or cold you feel, and even how your brain works. Keeping it functioning properly is essential, and understanding how it works is the first step toward better health awareness. So the next time you hear someone mention thyroid problems, you'll know just how significant this little gland really is. Have you ever wondered why your body makes you throw up? It's actually a fascinating defense mechanism that's been keeping humans alive for thousands of years. Let me break down this not-so-pleasant but incredibly important bodily function. Think of your body as having its own security system. When something potentially dangerous enters your stomach, whether it's contaminated food, too much alcohol, or even strong emotions, your brain receives warning signals. It's like having a super protective bouncer that says, "Nope, this isn't good for us, get it out." The process starts in an area of your brain called the chemoreceptor trigger zone. This is basically your body's poison control center. When it detects something harmful, it signals your vagus nerve. Think of it as your body's internal emergency hotline. This triggers a series of coordinated muscle contractions, starting from your stomach and working their way up. Here's what's really wild. Vomiting isn't just about getting rid of stomach contents. Your body goes through an entire choreographed sequence. First, you might feel nauseous and start salivating more. That's your body preparing to protect your teeth from stomach acid. Then your diaphragm and abdominal muscles contract in perfect synchronization to create that forceful upward movement. But here's the thing. Vomiting isn't always about food poisoning. Motion sickness, pregnancy, certain medications, and even intense pain can trigger it. It's like your body's reset button saying, "Something's not right, let's start over." Some people even get sick from anxiety or seeing something disgusting. That's because your brain associates these experiences with potential threats. While it's definitely not pleasant, this reflex has been crucial to human survival. Think about our ancestors who had to figure out which berries were safe to eat. Those who could quickly get rid of poisonous substances were more likely to survive and pass on their genes. So next time you're hugging the porcelain throne, remember, as uncomfortable as it is, your body is actually trying to protect you. It's an incredible example of how our bodies have evolved to keep us safe, even if the experience itself is pretty miserable.
Hey there! Today let's talk about something that affects millions of women worldwide but isn't discussed nearly enough. Endometriosis. It's a condition that deserves our attention and understanding. Imagine your body is like a beautiful garden. Now, normally the tissue that lines your uterus, called the endometrium, is meant to grow inside the uterus, kind of like flowers growing in their designated flower bed. But with endometriosis, this tissue decides to be a rebel and grows where it shouldn't, outside the uterus. It's like having those flowers sprouting up in your driveway, on your porch, and places they don't belong. This condition affects roughly 1 in 10 women during their reproductive years. That's about 176 million women globally, more than the entire population of Russia. Yet, many people still don't understand what it means to live with this condition. The tricky thing about endometriosis is that it can be seriously sneaky. Some women might experience devastating pain that interferes with their daily lives, while others might not even know they have it. The most common symptoms include severe period pain, pain during sex, chronic pelvic pain, and in some cases it can even affect fertility. Here's something that might surprise you. It takes an average of 7 to 10 years for many women to get diagnosed with endometriosis. That's like watching your favorite TV series 3 times over. Why so long? Well, sometimes the symptoms are dismissed as just bad periods, and many women have been told to just tough it out. If you're missing work or school because of period pain, if you can't get out of bed, or if pain is affecting your daily life, that's not something you should have to tough out. The good news is that awareness is growing and treatment options are available. From pain management to hormone therapy, and in some cases surgery, there are ways to help manage this condition. Remember, if you're experiencing symptoms that might be related to endometriosis, don't hesitate to speak up. Your pain is valid and you deserve to be heard. Talk to your healthcare provider, and if needed, seek a second opinion. There's a whole community of warriors out there who understand what you're going through. Living with endometriosis isn't easy, but understanding it is the first step toward better management and support. You're not alone in this journey, and there's no shame in seeking help. Let's keep the conversation going and break the stigma surrounding this condition.
Hey there. Today let's talk about something that's more common than you might think. Concussions. You know, those head injuries that we often hear about in sports but can actually happen to anyone, anywhere. Think of your brain as a delicate piece of technology floating in fluid inside your skull. When your head takes a sudden hit or jolt, your brain can bounce or twist around, crashing against your skull. It's like shaking a smartphone in a box, not something you'd want to do. I actually remember when my friend Sarah got a concussion during a soccer match. One moment she was going for a header. The next thing she knew, she was sitting on the sidelines feeling dizzy and confused. It really opened my eyes to how serious these injuries can be. Here's what's really important to know. Concussions aren't just about losing consciousness. In fact, most people who get concussions don't black out at all. The signs can be subtle. Things like headaches, feeling foggy or confused, being more sensitive to light and noise, or having trouble with balance. What's particularly tricky about concussions is that symptoms might not show up right away. Sometimes it takes hours or even days before you realize something's not quite right. That's why it's super important to know the warning signs and take them seriously. Let me share something that might surprise you. Even mild concussions need proper care and recovery time. Your brain is essentially healing from an injury, and just like you wouldn't run on a sprained ankle, You shouldn't push your brain too hard while it's recovering. Here's what you should do if you suspect a concussion. First, stop whatever activity you're doing immediately. Second, get checked out by a medical professional. Don't try to tough it out. And third, follow their recovery instructions carefully even if you start feeling better. Remember, your brain is literally who you are. It's worth protecting and taking care of. Whether you're an athlete, a parent, or just someone who wants to stay safe, understanding concussions could make a huge difference in protecting yourself and others. Take it from someone who's seen the impact firsthand. When it comes to head injuries, it's always better to be cautious than sorry. Stay safe out there, and don't hesitate to seek help if you ever experience a head injury.
Hey there. Today, let's talk about something that affects millions of people worldwide: kidney stones. You know that excruciating pain that some describe as worse than childbirth? Yeah, that's often kidney stones. Think of kidney stones like unwanted crystal formations in your body. Kind of like those science experiments where you grew crystals in a jar, except these aren't nearly as fun. They form when certain chemicals in your urine become concentrated and begin to stick together. You might be wondering, how do I know if I have kidney stones? Well, let me tell you, your body will definitely let you know. And if you notice your urine looking pink, red, or brown, that's another red flag. Here's something interesting. Not all kidney stones are created equal. There are different types, with calcium stones being the most common. Think of them as the troublemakers of the bunch. Then you've got struvite stones, uric acid stones, and cystine stones, each with their own unique characteristics. The good news? You can actually take steps to prevent these painful little crystals from forming. Staying hydrated is your first line of defense. Aim for about 8 glasses of water a day. Your diet plays a huge role too. Too much salt, animal protein, or even too little calcium can increase your risk. You might be surprised to learn that certain lifestyle factors can put you at higher risk. Being overweight, not exercising enough, or even living in warmer climates can make you more prone to developing kidney stones. Small ones might pass on their own, though not painlessly, I might add, while larger stones might need medical intervention. Some people need sound wave therapy to break up the stones, while others might require surgery. Remember, prevention is always better than cure. Stay hydrated, eat a balanced diet, and if you notice any symptoms, don't try to tough it out. Get medical help. Your kidneys are vital organs, and they deserve the best care possible. This might be one of those topics that nobody wants to talk about, but knowledge is power. Understanding kidney stones could help you prevent them or recognize the symptoms early if they do occur. Take care of those kidneys. You've only got 2 of them. Hey there. Today, let's talk about something that many of us might experience but don't fully understand: bulging discs. You know that uncomfortable back pain that just won't go away? Well, it might be more than just regular muscle soreness. Think of your spine as a stack of cushiony discs, kind of like jelly donuts, sitting between your vertebrae. These discs are amazing shock absorbers that help you move, bend, and twist. But sometimes life happens. Maybe you lifted something too heavy, sat with poor posture for years, or simply got older, and these discs can start to bulge. Imagine squeezing that jelly donut. The filling starts to push out in one direction. That's basically what happens with a bulging disc. The soft inner part of the disc pushes against its tougher outer layer, creating a bump or bulge. The tricky part? This bulge can press against nearby nerves, causing pain, tingling, or numbness that might travel down your arms or legs. Here's what's interesting. Not everyone with a bulging disc experiences pain. In fact, some people might have one and never know it. But for those who do feel symptoms, it can range from mild discomfort to pretty intense pain that affects daily activities. The good news? Most bulging discs can be treated without surgery. Simple things like physical therapy, gentle exercises, and improving your posture can make a huge difference. Some people find relief through chiropractic care or acupuncture, while others might benefit from anti-inflammatory medications. Prevention is also key here. Maintaining good posture, staying active, keeping a healthy weight, and learning proper lifting techniques can help protect your spine. Think of it as maintaining your body's natural shock absorption system. Remember, if you're experiencing persistent back pain or unusual sensations in your limbs, it's worth getting checked out by a healthcare professional. They can properly diagnose whether a bulging disc is the culprit and help you find the best treatment path for your specific situation. Your spine does so much for you every day. It deserves some TLC in return.
Have you ever experienced that burning sensation in your stomach? That gnawing pain that makes you think twice about what you ate? Well, let's talk about ulcers, those pesky sores that form in your digestive tract. And here's the thing. What most people believe about ulcers is completely wrong. For years, doctors and patients alike believed that ulcers were caused by stress and spicy foods. Picture the stereotypical businessman, rushing between meetings, grabbing quick meals, and dealing with deadline pressures. Everyone thought this lifestyle was the perfect recipe for developing ulcers. But in 1982, two Australian scientists made a groundbreaking discovery that would completely change our understanding of ulcers. Meet Dr. Barry Marshall and Dr. Robin Warren. These medical detectives found that about 80% of ulcers are actually caused by a tiny bacteria called H. pylori. And, get this, Dr. Marshall was so convinced of his theory that he actually drank a broth containing these bacteria to prove it. Talk about dedication to science. Sure enough, he developed gastritis, the precursor to ulcers. But here's where it gets interesting. While H. pylori is the main culprit, there are other factors that can lead to ulcers. Regular use of certain painkillers like aspirin and ibuprofen can gradually wear away your stomach's protective lining. It's like constantly scraping away at a protective barrier until it's too thin to do its job. Excessive alcohol consumption and smoking can also increase your risk. Think of it like this. Your stomach is naturally equipped with a protective shield. But these habits are like sending in waves of attackers that weaken your defenses. And yes, while stress doesn't directly cause ulcers, it can make them worse. It's like adding fuel to the fire. Stress can increase stomach acid production and slow down healing. This is probably why the stress-ulcer connection was believed for so long. The good news? Once we understand what really causes ulcers, treating them becomes much more effective. If H. pylori is the culprit, a course of antibiotics can knock out the infection. If it's related to medications, your doctor can help you find alternatives that are gentler on your stomach. So the next time you feel that familiar burn, remember, it's probably not your stressful job or that spicy curry you ate. It's more likely a battle going on at the microscopic level, and with the right treatment, it's a battle you can win. Knowledge is power, and understanding the true causes of ulcers is the first step toward preventing and treating them effectively. After all, your stomach works hard for you. It's time to return the favor by taking care of it the right way. Hey there. Today, let's talk about something that might make you wince. Femur fractures. You know that long bone in your thigh? Yeah, breaking that is no joke. The femur is actually the strongest bone in your entire body. To put that in perspective, it's stronger than concrete and can typically withstand forces of up to 1,800 pounds. That's why when it does break, it's usually due to some serious trauma, like a car accident or a really bad fall. Now here's something that might surprise you. Despite its strength, femur fractures are more common than you'd think. Athletes, especially those in high-impact sports and elderly people with osteoporosis, are particularly at risk. And when it happens, believe me, you'll know it. The pain is, well, let's just say it's unforgettable. The scary part about femur fractures is that they can be life-threatening. Why? Because this bone is surrounded by major blood vessels and muscles. When it breaks, there's a risk of severe bleeding and shock. Plus, the bone fragments can damage nearby tissues and nerves. But here's the good news. Modern medicine has come a long way in treating these fractures. Surgery is usually necessary, and doctors often use something called an intramedullary rod. Basically a metal rod that goes right through the center of the bone to hold it together while it heals. Pretty cool, right? Recovery can take anywhere from 4 to 6 months, sometimes even longer. It's a journey that requires a lot of patience and physical therapy. But here's an interesting fact. Once properly healed, the bone can actually be stronger at the fracture site than it was before. Talk about a silver lining. One last thing. If you ever suspect someone has a femur fracture, don't try to move them. Call emergency services immediately. The wrong movement could cause more damage or even lead to complications. Remember, with serious injuries like this, it's always better to be safe than sorry. Stay safe out there, folks, and take care of those bones.